I'm still in preparation, getting ready for Saturday Night Special Episode 2 this weekend. But I just had to stop and make a statement based on my observation from MLS MatchDay 20, Wednesday Night Soccer. I have to say, the soccer that I saw on MatchDay 20 was probably the best night of Wednesday night soccer that I've ever seen in Major League Soccer since I have been watching, since 2021. 2021 was the year I started watching MLS. So since 2021, this past Wednesday, that was the best night of Wednesday night soccer that I have ever seen. I mean, it started off with Atlanta and New York City. I mean, what is it with these two teams? It just seems like whenever these two teams go against each other, it goes down to the wire. And it's not only Atlanta and NYC, it's also Atlanta and Chicago. Whenever Atlanta plays against New York City, whenever Atlanta plays against Chicago, it just seems like those two matches always go down to the wire. But specifically, Atlanta and New York City, since those two teams played on Wednesday. Remember that game in the Bronx earlier this season? Where it was like in the final minutes, the 90th minute, the game was tied at 1. And New York City could have won it. But I think one of the players, like the ball hit against the goalpost, like the top goalpost. It went over the goalie's head and hit the top goalpost. I don't know if that was like somewhere between like the 87th minute and 90-minute extra time. And then you had this match. This was Atlanta's B team out here. Atlanta had like 4 or 5 missing starters. But they're still giving it to New York City. They still came out with energy. And that's what I like. You see, when I talk about entertainment aspect of the game on a Wednesday night, that is what I want to see. And those two teams kept going at it until the final whistle was blown. New York City lost the game in extra time. It went down to extra time again, and Atlanta scored late to steal 2 points from New York City. Now, when I usually say like a draw doesn't mean, like when people say a draw could be a loss, when we say that in soccer, this is what we mean when we say a draw is not really a draw for a certain team. It's really a loss. This draw that New York City had against Atlanta was a loss for New York City. Because whenever a team is leading late in a match and they allow the team to score, to tie it, that is a loss for the team that could have walked away with 3 points. The trailing team that forced the tie, they stole 2 points from the team that was leading. So in this scenario, Atlanta United stole 2 points from NYCFC. NYCFC could have left the game with 3 points if they were able to play good defense and keep the final score at 2-1, if they were able to hold their lead. Because they weren't able to do that, that was a loss for New York City. In the record books now, it's gonna be a tie. But when it comes to competition, in terms of competition, that is definitely a loss for New York City, because New York City allowed Atlanta to take 2 points away from them. So, the New York City, Atlanta, that is something that we have to remember this offseason. Whoever's in charge of creating Major League Soccer schedule, if you're going to bring back Friday night soccer next season, Atlanta, New York City, that would be great. That would be great. At some point. Or if you want to do a opening day doubleheader, because we know Inter Miami CF is either going to play LA Galaxy or LAFC to open the season in 2024. We already know that. I mean, that's a lock. But if you want to do a doubleheader, you want to add a doubleheader to that, which will be great. New York City, Atlanta should be considered. But I'm not going to get too much into that, because when it comes to opening day in 2024, you may want to do like a West Coast game and an East Coast game. The East Coast game is going to be Miami, so the West Coast game is probably going to be El Tráfico. Well, I'll talk about that on another monologue, like this winter, sometime this winter. Wednesday night soccer. The entertainment aspect is very important in Wednesday night soccer, because when you think about a typical American, what are they doing on a Wednesday night? Now, I'm talking about the ones that actually contribute to the society, not the ones that argue with each other on YouTube all day, but the working Americans. What are they typically doing on a Wednesday night? They just got off work. They either just got off work, or they're going to sleep, getting ready for Thursday morning, or they're helping their kid with homework, or they're picking up their kid from band practice or some after school related activity. So if you're going to get those people to take some time off of their busy work schedule in the middle of the week, their busy responsibility schedule in the middle of the week, what is the best way to get their attention for at least 2 hours? Because we know they're not going to watch every single MLS game on a Wednesday night. But what is going to get them to at least watch one MLS game on a Wednesday night? Entertainment. See, Wednesday night soccer should be all about entertainment. It should mirror something like the All-Star game. Not the All-Star game to a full extent now, but some sort of, it should be almost similar to the All-Star game, where we see guys trying to score. We see, well, not only trying to score, but they're actually scoring. That Atlanta, New York City game, the New York Red Bulls, Charlotte game, where New York Red Bulls came from behind to force a tie. New York Red Bulls also stole 3 points from Charlotte. Philly stole 3 points from Orlando. Kansas City stole 3 points from LA Galaxy. Wednesday night soccer was a night of thieves. We entered the first day of summer, the first night of summer, stealing. It was a night of thievery. Figuratively speaking now. Teams disappointing their opponents. Atlanta stole from New York City. New York Red Bulls stole from Charlotte. Philadelphia Union stole from Orlando. Kansas City stole from LA Galaxy. But you know who did not allow themselves to get to get robbed? The Houston Dynamo. Now, Houston, one thing I like about you, Houston Dynamo, is that you're not worried about what anybody is saying about you. When it comes to a mentality of us against the world, Houston, you have that kind of mindset. You have that us against the world mindset. And that's what I like about you, Houston. I still remember earlier this season when I said that we're going to put the pressure on San Jose and Houston. Now, I haven't talked much about Houston, but that does not mean I have not been paying attention to Houston. Houston is now 3-0 against the Cali Boys. Well, actually 4-0 against the Cali Boys this year so far. They beat LAFC twice. They have beaten LA Galaxy once. They have beat San Jose once. The Houston Dynamo is undefeated against the Cali Boys this season. And it matters when it comes to competition in the West. It matters when it comes to respect in the West. You see, Houston Dynamo, you understand that playing well against the Texas Boys is not enough for Western supremacy. You also got to be dominant against the Cali Boys. You also have to be dominant against the Cascadia Boys. You come up on top against the Texas Boys, the Cali Boys, and the Cascadia Boys. That is going to be your road to eventually making the MLS Cup championship match. And you understand that. Ben Olsen is a guy, he see what people are saying about him on social media. He's seeing what people are saying that, oh, he was a failure in Washington, D.C. And because he was a failure in Washington, D.C., that means he can't be good in Houston. But what those people don't understand is that redemption is real. And just because one person failed in one city does not mean they can't redeem themselves in a new city. And that's what Ben Olsen is doing this year in 2023. He's redeeming himself in the city of Houston, and he is showing the American soccer world that he can lead a team to a championship, that he can create a good team with a roster full of guys who most of us don't even know. Look, when we think about Houston Dynamo, the only guy that us outsiders who don't watch Houston Dynamo every week, the only guy we know is really Hector Herrera. Me personally, I can't name any other guy on that roster because I haven't been following Houston as close as I've been following LAFC in New York City and Atlanta. But Houston, I still see you from afar. And I see the work that you're putting in. Houston, just know you are not being ignored. Just because you're not talked about as much as LAFC, that doesn't mean we don't see you. We see you, Houston. Or I see you. Houston, you got my attention last week when you beat LAFC. And it doesn't matter about LAFC being tired from CCL. It's soccer. LAFC knew what they're getting themselves into. And not every LAFC player played in CCL for the full 90 minutes. Not every LAFC player played in the US Open Cup for the full 90 minutes. So I'm not giving LAFC a pass. I was the one that said LAFC losing in the CCL championship title so far has been the biggest letdown in MLS history up to this date. From 1996 all the way to summer or spring 2023, LAFC losing in the CCL championship title match has been the biggest letdown in MLS history, and I'm standing on that. That is my opinion. So I see you, Houston. Keep up the good work. You're undefeated against the Cali Boys, and that matters. You continue to dominate the Texas boys, continue to dominate the Cali boys, dominate the Cascadia boys. And Houston, you will be one of my heavy favorites to make it to the MLS Cup championship title out of the West. You'll be one of those contenders that I would choose, or I will be looking forward to watching the most in the playoffs. Houston, remember, you still got US Open Cup to win. You still got Leagues Cup to win. When it comes to Supporters Shield race, as of right now, I don't think anybody's going to catch Cincinnati. But when it comes playoff time, you can win an MLS Cup title. So that would be your triple, Houston. If you win US Open Cup, you win Leagues Cup, you win MLS Cup championship title, that would be your triple, Houston. So Houston, I see you. We see you. And now that you have beat all three Cali boys at least once this season, you best believe we're going to be talking about you way more than we did before. Now, when it comes to San Jose is okay. You have still been performing well too. I'm really impressed by how you've been playing. This stretch, ever since your LAFC match at the 49ers Stadium, from that time all the way up to Leagues Cup, you're playing a lot of tough teams. You probably have the toughest schedule during this current stretch. From late May, between late May and the middle of July, you probably have the toughest schedule out of every other MLS team. So this one loss doesn't define who you are, San Jose. I know that, and you know that. So learn from your mistakes. Keep moving forward. Overall, this is the kind of Wednesday night soccer I want to see. This is how you entertain us. Teams trying to score. You don't have to have the best defense out there. We're Americans. We're not Europeans. We're not thinking about tactics. MLS, listen, you don't have to make this thing harder than what it really is to attract Americans. As a matter of fact, it's not really hard to attract Americans to watch soccer in general, because we want to be entertained. We don't care about tactics. We don't care about soccer formations and what defender is at the right place at the right time to stop a guy from scoring. We don't really think about that. We mainly want to be entertained. We want to see guys score. And when we do think about defense, the only time we really think about defense is when our favorite team is in the lead. So if you're an NYCFC fan, this Thursday morning, you're extremely pissed at your defense for allowing Atlanta to steal 3 points from you. If you're a Charlotte fan, you are extremely pissed at your defense for allowing the New York Red Bulls for stealing 3 points from you. Orlando fan, you are extremely pissed for allowing Philly to steal 3 points from you. LA Galaxy fans, we already know you're pissed, but you're even more heated. You're even more heated because it's been tough for you for allowing Kansas City from stealing 3 points from you. And speaking of Kansas City, I see you too. I remember one game, I think that was after the LAFC game, where Johnny Russell was recorded. He was saying that people don't see like the progress being made but progress is being made. He says something like that. And then I responded on Kansas City's Twitter account on that post, that video post. And I said, I see the progress. I said, other people may not see the progress, but I see the progress. I started to see the progress in that game. If I'm correct, if that was the LAFC game where Johnny Russell was recorded talking in the camera, I've seen the progress, and I like it. Kansas City, even though I don't like your barbecue, I think you have a good coach. Which is why I wasn't one of those guys who said that he should be fired during that huge losing streak. Because I think he's a good coach. So, the way things are looking in the West, the way things are so tough, I expect you, Kansas City, to get that 8th or 9th seed. Or even if you can get that 7th seed, so you can be safe from the play-in tourney. That would be even better. With what you had to endure earlier this season, if you at least don't get somewhere between a 7th or a 9th seed, Kansas City, based on how you're playing now, your season will be a failure. The expectation is playoffs now, Kansas City. Before, we had no idea what to think of you. But now, we see potential playoff contender. And Kansas City, you're one of those teams that could make a deep playoff run. You could be one of those teams that the higher seeded teams may be afraid to face heading into the playoffs. You and Salt Lake, both of y'all look like y'all can be some real disruptors. Salt Lake gave it to St. Louis. Now, should we be harsh on the fall of St. Louis? No, because they're a first-year team, and most of us knew that eventually they're going to fall a little, because the one thing that St. Louis did wrong, the biggest mistake so far this season, is starting the season off in a full sprint. You cannot treat Major League Soccer season. You cannot sprint through the season, basically. It is a long, long, long marathon. It's cross country. Major League Soccer is cross country. It's not track and field. You got to pace yourself through the season. And that's something that St. Louis will eventually learn as it continues to grow. But Salt Lake is starting to look like the team that I thought they were. A true disruptor that can upset some high-seeded teams in the playoffs. It looked like they want to be the Rocky Mountain boy that helps Major League Soccer play well in the CCC. But you see, the jury is still out for you, Salt Lake, because you still make the playoffs, but you usually exit early in recent years. You've been exiting early, so the jury is still out for you. But anyhow, that's all I have to say about Wednesday Night Soccer. The best Wednesday night of matches that I've ever seen since I started watching MLS in 2021. Let's keep it up. The entertainment aspect. Entertain us. And one of my Saturday Night Specials, one of my episodes of Saturday Night Special coming up later this summer, I'm going to go into more detail about the entertainment aspect and why it's important. And how we can enhance more ways to make this league more entertaining for the sake of sustainability, especially on a Wednesday night.